This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to andBeyond in Ngala. My name is Eric, and behind camera, as always, is Owen. And just a reminder, the first 45 minutes is dedicated to answering any questions that the kids have, so please feel free to send through any questions that you have at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. We have started off rather well this afternoon. If you were watching this morning, we managed to find a pride of lions that we're actually not too sure where they come from or who they are. So Owen and I made the decision to come here nice and early and just try and see if we could put more of the puzzle pieces together. And it seems like a few of those pieces are actually missing. There are only 4 lions around this tiny little shaded patch, whereas this morning we had an extra 2. So there were 6 in total, and now there just seems to be 4 around here. We've had a good look around. It doesn't seem like, at least in the nearby vicinity, there are any other lions around for now. But it's nice to see that these ones are nice and relaxed and sleeping underneath this bush. It might be that maybe another adult drifted away to try and find something to eat in the late morning. It was still very overcast right up until about 12 o'clock this morning, and now it started to warm up really nicely, and I think that's why we're finding these lions nice and snoozy in the bushes there. One on the left hand side rolling around nicely. It looks like it's stuck. No, it finally got over. Where did you see that, eh? Okay. So that one that's rolled over gave us a pretty good view of underneath its tail. So that's one of the young females. And then the one right next to it is one of the young males. You might just see the bit of mane growing around the side of the face, and just look at that very cute pink nose. So all of them are youngsters. There doesn't seem to be any adults around this area yet. And so if the mother has decided to go off and hunt, this is exactly what they'll be doing until they get the call from the mother. And so every now and again we see them picking up their heads. They scan around quickly, maybe just trying to see if the mother's on her way back. If she gets close into the area, she'll just let out these small little contact calls, and they'll react in an instant. They'll look to see where the mother's coming from, and they'll basically run straight towards her. And the first thing that they do is they start sniffing around the mouth to see if there's any sign or smell of blood. And that will mean that they've got a nice fresh meal to come towards. So they'll get very, very excited. And I think it will be a good idea, at least for the next little while, to just hang around and see what happens with the rest of this pride. That young lioness seems rather arrogant. Yeah, so like I said, we're going to be here at least for the next little while and see exactly what's going on, and hopefully we'll be able to put a little bit more of these puzzle pieces I keep mentioning together. So whilst we do that, I think we'll send you across to andBeyond Phinda, where Jared has got some nice tall animals waiting to say hello.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name's Jared, and we've got Marcel behind the camera today. And look what we've managed to find for you all. A group of giraffe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 giraffe. And how perfect, just for the kiddie section. For all you little kiddies out there, we've managed to find a tiny giraffe. Now, there's something very special about this giraffe. I'm going to ask Marcel to just zoom into the stomach, and you'll notice that it still has its umbilical cord. How amazing is that? So when that baby was inside his mommy's tummy, through that, oh, something's just spooked him. It is a little bit windy, so maybe one of the birds just landed on the mother and she got a little bit of a fright. It's not because of us at all. See, she's now relaxed. She's run off to where the males are and she's completely relaxed. So as I was saying, that umbilical cord that little calf has is where, when that baby's in its mommy's tummy, is where it gets all its nutrients from. Now, giraffe are quite strange. They keep their umbilical cord for some time. It has been recorded even up to about 3 months that umbilical cord will stay attached. And just over time, that umbilical cord will start to shrink and dry up, and eventually it will fall off because it will hook on a tree or a branch and then just pull off. So this one that's the closest towards us, this is the mother of the giraffe. And then we've got 3 males in the background, which is a little bit unusual. This particular group of giraffe seems to have far more males than females. You'll often find that groups of giraffe tend to have more females than males, and the females tend to stick together, where the males will come and go. Sometimes the younger males will stay together in a group. Other times they will move off and walk around by themselves when they're a little bit older. Now, the way I'm able to tell that the difference between the males and females is if you look at the horns. So Marcel, I'm just going to ask you to go right into the horns of the closest one to us. Do you see how thin those horns are? And there's a tuft of hair above those horns. Now let's move over to the ones behind it. You'll notice that those horns are much thicker and also bald on top. So now we know the ones with the thin horns with the hair on top, a little bit like a pom-pom, is a female. And the ones with the larger, thicker horns that are bald on top are the males. And the reason why the males have those thicker horns as well as the lack of hair is because when giraffe fight, they do something called necking. And when they neck, they swing their neck and they punch each other or hit each other with those horns. And they will try and aim for the neck, the legs, and even sometimes they're able to trip the other giraffe that they're busy fighting with. Now, they're not territorial, so they're not fighting for territories like lions and leopards do, but they're just fighting for mating rights. And those mating rights mean that when there is a female for them to mate with, they're able to mate with them. Have a look how tiny that baby giraffe is. You can barely see it above the trees. Whereas if you look at all the adults, much taller than the trees. So Jordan's class, that baby giraffe is probably just over 6 feet. I think it's maybe 2 or 3 weeks old. When they're born, when that calf was born, it would have been about 6 feet tall, weighing roughly between 50 kgs, 50 to 70 kgs, sometimes more. So it has really started to grow quite quickly. But I do think it's somewhere over, maybe about 7 feet. Let's say 6.5, 7 feet. And it's an interesting question talking about how tall the giraffe is. So this area where Phinda is in an area that is renowned for the Zulus. And the Zulus is a tribe that exists in this area. And their African name for giraffe is Ngulumiti. Now, Ngulumiti, if you had to translate it into English, means taller than the trees. So all these adults are taller than the trees, but that tiny little baby, I think, has got still some time to go to until it is taller than all the trees in the area. Beautiful long tail. Have a look how long and black that tail is on the mom. Perfectly designed for swatting flies that are sort of midway up the body. See how she's lifted her head nice and high, pointing her ears in one direction. I do think that she spotted something in that direction. Ooh, Marcel, quickly have a look at the male to the right. Peckers, everyone. How frustrating must that be? They're busy eating the ticks all around the eyes. So Alice, that depends on area to area and the amount of nutrients in the area. But here on Phinda Private Game Reserve, a very good age for a giraffe would be sort of mid-20s. So about 25 or so is a good age for a giraffe in this area. Seems like those oxpeckers are still feeding around the eye. Oh, it's starting to frustrate the male a little bit. Interesting. Now they're both looking in the same direction. I wonder what they've seen. They don't seem too bothered, so I don't think it's a predator. You would see by their behavior, they would actually lift their heads up a little bit higher. And a lot of people say that giraffe don't make noises, but in fact they do. They make a sound like this. They go poof, poof, poof. And when they see a predator, that is their alarm call. And so if they were to see a lion, leopard, they would make that sound, which would attract the attention of all the other giraffe, and I'd expect all the giraffe to be looking the same direction and that baby heading over straight to mom. Alright, so I'm going to go investigate to see what they're looking at. Sometimes you might even find it could just be a predator very far away, or hyenas. Giraffe don't tend to be too afraid of hyenas. But while I go and investigate to see what they're looking at, we're going to head over to Tswalu.
Good afternoon again from another beautiful afternoon at Tswalu Kalahari. As always, Jandre on camera there. And it's great that you can join us again this afternoon. I don't have a specific plan. Jandre and I are just going to amble around, see what we can find for you. Well, when I don't have a plan, I've got one idea. I'm going to try and find a really special bird. It's a pair that I've been looking at for a number of years now. I can't always guarantee that we'll find them, of course, but we'll try. So we're just going to have to be a little bit patient with that. I'm not going to give it away as to what it is, but what I will say is that they normally nest on the ground. They have been known to, they can nest up trees and that as well, but they normally nest on the ground, or sometimes on top of sociable weaver nests. But I'm not going to give you any more clues than that. And I think for the primary reason is, I don't know if we're going to actually be able to find them, but we're going to try. So I think let's head on and see if we can get any cool birds for you guys this afternoon. And also, as we go out, just as always, please feel very, very welcome to ask questions about this environment that we're in. The Kalahari is a really, really remarkable place. And Tswalu in particular, it's got incredible diversity in terms of terrain. So it's not just, typical Kalahari veld, these rolling dunes, but it's got these lovely rocky hills and that as well. So it's an incredibly diverse system. So feel free to ask us about that. And if we can answer any of the questions, we will. And if we can't, we will find the answers. So Meeva's just asked the question, do you think there are more animals that we haven't discovered yet? And 100% there are. Absolutely. Jandra and I were actually chatting about the other day, and one of the figures that comes out is scientists say there's probably in the region of about 2% of mammals are still to be discovered. I'm not sure how accurate that figure is, but definitely on mammals. And remember, we're talking about mammals, we can be like tiny little things like that to large mammals. But if you're looking at in terms of life forms, then there are still millions of species to be discovered. And on Tswalu, as an example, one of our long-standing researchers here, Simon van Nert, he works at the Iziko Museum in South Africa, and he's the bee and wasp expert. And he's come out here and he's just got so many species. And I mean, he's the leading expert on this, and he just says it's going to take them decades to try figure out what all these things are, what all the names are. So very often they can say, well, they kind of this genus, but to get it down to an actual species level is very, very difficult. So just bear that in mind next time you're walking around anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a national park or a big private nature reserve. It could be, again, in your back garden. It could be in Central Park in New York. Just like spare a thought for all these little things flying around. What are they? Chances are very good that scientists won't even be able to tell you what the species is on many of those things. We had people looking at moths the other day. Herman Stout, again, great researcher. He's the leading expert on Southern African moths. And in 2 nights, just 2 nights, of putting up these little light traps. So in other words, you put a white sheet there with a light on it, and then the moths go, and then you can kind of count them and take photographs and that. They got over 200 different species of moths on Tswalu in 2 evenings. So, I mean, the diversity is absolutely incredible. And if you look at places like Phinda, on that northern Natal or northern KwaZulu-Natal coastline of South Africa, I mean, the diversity there, the sheer biological diversity is probably quadruple what we've got at Tswalu. And that's across all the different things. So, but each environment, if Tswalu as an example, we've got a higher species count on antlions and owl flies than most areas of the Lowveld have. Which is the Kruger National Park area, and including a new species, Mervyn Mansell, the chap that found it 2 years ago, again the leading expert in the field. From the University of Pretoria, he's been studying these things his whole life. Comes out, here's a new species. So, yeah, so that's a great question. But if we're thinking in terms of like all life forms, plants, I mean, and just think of plants. It's algae, it's lichens, it's big things, small things, across the board. I mean, it's just the diversity is massive. Very, very exciting. So we're going to try we're going to amble and see if we can pick up on those birds, which I'm not going to give the name away. And in the meantime, head over to Tswalu and see what she's got that side for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you and how are wonderful kitties? I hope that you are well. We have some Impala to start us off with this morning. The bush is really quiet. And we're going to be listening out to any clues. Hello, my name is Tswalu with BK on camera this afternoon, and we are actually going hunting for hyena dens, because our lovely hyena mum Ribbon, she's moved her den, or so we suspect. So we're going to go and look at the other dens and see if we're able to find her. Animals like these Impala, will also alarm at hyenas. So it's important to sit and wait and listen out. Antelope are awesome to watch. You can see them eating. Got their heads down. And when some have their heads down, others have their heads up, so that they're not caught off guard by a predator. It's really nice to be a herd animal, because you've got extra eyes and ears all around to make sure that you can stay safe. These guys look really, really relaxed. I don't think anything's been bothering them, at least not recently, like today. Now, I have checked the Shibamu Road Den, that's where I am at the moment. I have checked the Albury's Road dens. I've checked the Mvubu Road. That's where we are. We've checked Mvubu for the den, we've checked Shibamu, we've checked Albury's. So we need to go to Cheetah Cut Line all the way in the east and check out that den. What do you say, Impalas? They say we don't care too much. They're just happily eating. I have another little friend here. Can you see him? It's a little caterpillar, a little inchworm. You'll see when it moves. Although it's decided not to move for now. It's going to be my co-host today, everybody. Tswalu and the inchworm. Well, Inchworm and myself are not the only hosts out on Djuma today. Steve is too, so let's go over to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. We've been looking for Thandi once again this afternoon. She moved off from her kill as she was chased away by a lioness. We found her track heading back towards where we tracked the cub this morning. Here's the cub. Good afternoon, everybody. How awesome is that? My name is Steve, joined by Verden again on camera. We're just driving through. This is where we tracked her to this morning, the little cub. We're not going to stay. We're going to have one more view, and we're going to leave. If Mum is here, we could stay. We've been here for about 30 seconds, but I don't see Mum. We'll go back and work the area, see if we can pick up on the lioness. There's a young lioness that came this morning after we left and stole the kill from Thandi. It's the young Ngala lioness. Just going to leave. We're going to be out of here. This area will be closed off for now. How awesome is that? That's exactly where we looked this morning when we tracked her down here. And then we tried to track her back. Couldn't find her coming in properly. And so I thought we'd just do a cursory little drive past, and Vanna just spotted him. Little boy. How awesome is that? It makes me melt. Okay, so we're going to find Thandi now. We're going to try. Now, everybody, the reason why we're moving off is because with the cub, you don't stick around due to sensitivity. Obviously, lots of distance is okay, but we've just got policies behind that. So we've left now, and we don't know where Thandi is. We're going to see if we can find her or that lioness. In the meantime, let's send you back over to andBeyond in Ngala.
Welcome back to Ngala. Not much has changed at all, apart from the position of the sun, I guess. You can see those two lions that are closest to us are a lot more in the sun, which might mean that they could get up and just basically shift their bodies. And just as I say that, there's a big stretch and a roll around. A few of the things that we start looking for when these lions like to get up and move around a little bit more. So we've been watching the four of them quite carefully and just trying to look at any of the finer details that might indicate where they have come from or who they are. And it's still a mystery to us, which I think is rather exciting to know that there's lions that basically not any of the guides have ever seen here at Ngala. They've just appeared probably from the Kruger National Park, I would say, which means that there's a good chance that when they get up and they decide to move, if they move off the property, we might never ever see them again, it's just such an amazing feeling to know that these lions are able to do that in this time. So this one here that we're focusing on, and this is the youngest male within this little group. The one directly behind it is a slightly bigger cousin, I would say. And we've noticed that the bigger cousin, we can't see it now, but at the very end of the tail, it's completely missing that typical black tuft that lions have. And so that would probably be quite a good way to just keep a lookout for it. And you never know, maybe when it decides to leave this group, it might find its way back into Ngala, and maybe that lack of the black tip might be one of the ways that we might be able to identify him again one day. They all seem completely asleep. They're not really reacting to any of the bird calls around us, so they're quite comfortable being there. I'd love to know where the mother disappeared off to. Mario, you've asked a question about if lions sleep all the time or most of the time. And it seems that when we're watching them, they tend to sleep most of the time. But it's also got a lot to do with their behavior, Mario. And one of the reasons why they sleep is because it's conserving and it's resting, so they can save energy for when they need to hunt and when they need to move around. And that one's just rolling over a little bit more into the shade, so it's probably good for another 20-30 minutes or so. So Mario, they only tend to move around when they need to, because it tends to be quite a lot more taxing to use energy, and they need to just be careful. They don't want to waste too much of it. So I mean, they can typically sleep, these lions will probably sleep in the region of 18 to 20 hours in the daytime. Sorry, Lundeka, can you just say that again? And so they'll basically just be resting here probably for the remainder of the day. Yeah, so I think we might just stay here for a little bit longer to see if anything else changes. If nothing in the next 15 minutes, we will probably end up moving off, and we might end up heading towards a waterhole. So we'll send you across to Tswalu Kalahari, where Dylan's got a nice bird for you there.
Okay, this is absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited, and I absolutely adore these birds, and they are so, it's like I've got a number of go-to pairs. I'm still not telling you what they are. You're going to see it soon. You're going to see it soon. Look at that. Look at that. It's a spotted eagle owl. Spotted eagle owl. Very common on the reserve, but very difficult to see in daylight. You know, we typically associate owls with nocturnal, as being nocturnal, which they are. So you don't often see them in daylight hours unless you know really where they're nesting, that kind of stuff. So this particular pair, I've been watching these birds for years now. It's never a given that I'll ever find them, but at least we know the area, the hillside that they like staying on. So we, and Jandra and I actually came past the other day, and we searched and we searched and we searched. We didn't get them. There's the second one. So this will be a territorial pair of spotted eagle owls. Yes, I'm so chuffed you got these. It's lucky. So lucky. So yeah, so this territorial pair, they'll defend their territory very aggressively against any other spotted eagle owls that might come into the area. If they start nesting in a site and it's successful, okay, let me just put that in perspective there. Their nesting site, they just nest on the ground, and occasionally they'll nest in trees if there's like a sociable weaver nest, or like a big platform or a rocky ledge that they can get on. They'll nest in other sites, but normally it's on the ground. But it doesn't mean that they will use the exact same spot on the ground every season. Yeah, it could be 3 rocks to the left, or 10 rocks higher, or 1 rock lower, or whatever. So, but within this area, if they've nested successfully, they will use that same location year after year after year after year. And I think the pair that I've been watching for the longest on Tswalu, that pair's been at that site for about 10 years now. And again, I don't know how much longer it was there prior to that. Now, that's also very interesting in terms of these owls, because, you know, in terms of their lifespans, yeah, they being predators, there's obviously a lot of wear and tear on them. Yeah, they're catching mice and little birds, and they're eating scorpions and a lot of insects for spotted eagle owls. But it's just the nature of a predator. There's a bit of wear and tear on them. So the longevity of these birds in the wild will be a lot less than a bird in captivity. I would have to check up on the data as to exactly how long they can live, but you know, what interests me in terms of how long that other pair's been there, at least 10 years. I wonder how long they were there before I actually even saw them for the first time. And it's you know, these things, they're monogamous, so you get a male and a female that will pair up and they will stick together as long as they can to defend that territory and that. And obviously, if something happens to one of the pair, then the other one will need to find a mate again. Now, what I don't know is if they find a mate, do they just use that existing territory? I would assume so, particularly if the mates moved in or the extra ones moved in as a dispersal bird into that area. But there's always the risk if they lose the territory. And if it's only one bird, they could lose that territory very, very easily. I'm just checking up here, just out of interest, on the Roberts Bird Guide, which is like the premier guide on birds in southern Africa, and they reckon they can disperse up to 30 kilometers away from the original nesting site. And 30 kilometers is, that's a huge distance for owls. And again, that's one of the reasons no one should be using rat poison or rodenticides, to control them. These birds are really the answer. These are like in barn owls is the big one. But we're going to stay with these birds a bit longer. I just want to see if there's any other activity going on here. But in the meantime, head back to Trishala and see what she has on that side.
We have Ailey's that were just wanting to touch the car. They were so close. They've just moved off a little bit now. And absolutely calm. Beautifully comfortable and calm. Didn't give us a handshake or anything. They just wanted the particular grass that was around the car. Oh, okay, let's roll a little bit forward. There's some more. Actually, I don't think I can roll. That's why I switched on. There's these guys through there. Actually, there's two that are having a bit of a... Okay, let's turn around. We can have a view from here for a little bit. And then we'll turn around. Listen to them rustling. Hi Max, you're 8 years old. I'd like to know how much food do elephants eat per day. Elephants can eat anything between 100 kgs to 300 kgs of food. A big bull, really nice big bull, 300 kgs of food a day. That is a lot. That's why every time we see them, they're eating. They can be quite noisy when they're eating, and if you're very still in the bush, you'll be able to hear them from quite a while away because of the breaking of branches. You can hear the branches breaking, you can hear them pulling out the grass, you can hear them hitting the grass against themselves to dust it off. See what she's doing there? So she grabs the grass with her trunk and then uses her foot to cut it off from the ground. Watch again. And then, there we go. Isn't that cool? If you pull off out of the ground, you're going to get a lot more sand. So you'll find that elephants will do this sometimes. Sometimes if they can just break it easily, they'll just pull the tops, like she's doing there. Okay, let's turn around. Oh, I see a little guy in the road in front of me. Stop in this patch of shade here. Really, really, really relaxed. She just put her trunk over her tusk, as in put her tusk inside of her trunk. Casper, you'd like to know how old is the oldest tree on Djuma? Well, I don't know, firstly, because I haven't checked out every tree, but the leadwood tree stands for very, very long. In fact, many tens of years after it's actually died. Oh, and we have many leadwood trees on the property, and there's some that look very, very old. In fact, the one on Leadwood Road, after its life, it can live for 100 years, probably 150 if not more. Oh no. Meanwhile, while two are fighting, another one has decided it's a good time to rest. I don't know if you got that, but the two that were fighting, one farted while he was fighting. These are just awesome to watch. Look at these two boys. One's trying to get food out of the other's mouth. Everyone's calmed now. Calmed down now. Oh, spoke too soon. Let's see what Steve would like. Standing by, Steve. I'm with some Elias on Mvubu at the moment. I'm going to go central Chitakatla and check out the den by Firebreak. Copy, good luck. Oh, I'd like to think that that's an elephant kiss. Hi, Connor, you're 10 years old. You'd like to know, what do we use these tusks for? Well, they can use them for defense. See, just like that, if they had to fight with each other, because males can have altercations. They're usually quite peaceful animals when it comes to interacting with each other. So if you need to defend yourself, a tusk is a great way to do that. And injuries from tusks are really, really gnarly. They can really hurt themselves. And apart from that, and what I think is more important, is that tusks are used when they're breaking branches. They'll hold the branch they want to actually eat with the tusk, with the trunk, the end of the trunk, and then they push down their heads and the trunk, the tusk against the branch, and then you're breaking that branch with the tusk. It kind of creates this leverage. And I think that's really important. That also makes sense as to why males and females make great use of tusks. But that doesn't mean that tuskless animals are less likely to be fed. They still feed pretty well. Let's go a little forward. Everyone's really relaxed and playing. There's some tiny ones in here too. Oh, someone caused some trouble further in. Interesting stuff going on in the Game Drive radio. Yeah, well, it's no wonder these little ones are a bit raucous. The older ones are also behaving a little bit badly. Cool. That was just lovely. Nice way to start the drive. Right, well, I'm going to keep on going on my mission, and I'm going to send you over to Dylan at Tswalu Kalahari. He's got something special for you.
So what we've got here is the coolest thing. It's a tree rat's nest. And, you know, you can pass the same place multiple times over a long period and just miss stuff. And just driving past now, I was like, hey, Jandre, check there. It's like, here's a nest. So these are tree rats. And we went for years and years and years in Tswalu without even recording these. But suddenly when you know what to look for, there they are. They don't all construct nests that are this bulky and this obvious. And okay, you can't see it from there, but there's like holes all over this tree and at the back over here. But this is a very, very typical nest structure of these little animals. And they are so, so, so cool. They very rarely come down to the ground unless they're foraging for twigs. And then they'll sometimes come down. Or occasionally, if they're staying in a very, very open area in a tree, to get from one tree to another, they'll come down, run across the ground, and then up. Obviously, here there's enough cover for them to actually get from tree to tree without having to come down to the ground. But it just shows, you know, there's a lot of other funny little things out here that we could look for. They're strictly nocturnal, unfortunately. So as I'm sitting here, there's probably a whole pile of them like fast asleep, you know. But they are absolutely adorable. I mean, and they're feeding a lot on seeds from the seed pods on the acacias or the thorn trees here, as well as insects. And they often gnaw, and I can't see, I mean, there's some examples here, but they're really tucked away, where they actually gnaw the tree bark, and then where it's been gnawed, it starts exuding a little bit of gum, and that's what they like feeding on as well. But yeah, that's just out of interest. It's pretty cool to see these things are around. So we're going to carry on and just see what's up ahead of us. I don't know what is. And unfortunately, it is the end of the kids' show. So Jeandra and I, we're going to go home now. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is the end of kids' show, but obviously welcome to stay, and welcome to everyone else that's just joined us. And just please feel free to keep asking questions. We're going to leave these little mice doing what they do best, which is sleeping, and we're going to head on a little bit further down the road and see what we can come up with for you. Let's get out here without getting hooked on thorns. So Mary Jane has just asked, what is a tree rat's nest? So that is it's a tree rat. It's a small little rodent like that. It actually fits kind of, if you take the palm of your hand, I've got very average hands, they're about that size. And these ones are called black-tailed tree rats. They've got a gorgeous little black tail, and they make that nest, although they shelter in trees, they use this as a lot of packing and nesting material. And if the hollow of the tree that they're in, the hole of the tree is actually large enough, very often they just keep the stuff inside there and you don't even see any of those twigs protruding. So this is a very, very distinct one, nice and obvious. So, I mean, and yeah, the colony sizes could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 animals. I've actually got a little family living at my house. We've got a big tree in our garden there, and there's a family living in the house. Something that I'm trying to figure out, and this is again how little we know about these things, I suspect they actually raid bird nests as well. Because we've got these birds nesting in the tree, white-browed sparrow weavers, and at night sometimes, 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, yes, you hear these birds going crazy and giving alarm calls. And every single time I've gone out with a torch at night, you get these little tree rats scampering away from the nest. So I wouldn't put it past them as being nest raiders, which again would be typical for a rodent in terms of kind of getting any kind of protein it can when it can. Yeah, so that's just a nice, fun little thing. We're going to carry on down here, and I think if you want to head back to Ngala and see what they've got on that side for you. So covered in grass.
We've just come to this waterhole to see what was going on, and as we were sitting watching the hippos, this beautiful little bird came and perched next to us. And it's a bird that we don't see sit still for very long, so I'm very, very glad we've got it on shot. It's called an African green pigeon, and just look at all of the different colors that it has, and it's really, really quite fascinating, because most of the time we see these birds flying over us, or we see them right up at the top of the trees, so we don't get to see them out in the open and almost eye level like this. But just look, got that beautiful green overall color, got a very blue eye, yellow and red on the bill, those bright red feet. So for a pigeon, it's incredibly colorful. I mean, most of our pigeons in southern Africa at least are mostly grays and quite drab colors. So it's beautiful to see it out in the open and just showing off its beauty. And I wonder if it's not just waiting for an opportunity to come down to the waterhole to drink. Maybe that's why it's just stopped and it's just surveying the area, making sure that there's no potential predators. Something like a small little raptor, like a little sparrowhawk or a kabar goshawk would definitely target a plump pigeon like this. I'm amazed at how still it is. Really is quite an interesting sighting of it. I think we'll just quickly shoot across to the Waterhole to show you that we've arrived. So we'll pan across here. I'm sure this is a waterhole that most of the viewers, if you've been watching for the last couple of months, have come to know quite well. And it's surprisingly, especially for the weather that we're experiencing at the moment, there's not too much in terms of mammals that are coming down to drink. A moment ago there were hippos, but it seems like they're camera shy. They've just disappeared. I don't see any. We had 3 that were lined up really nicely, and now they've all just disappeared. Morlo, you're asking what the difference between an alarm call and a normal call is for birds. And sometimes they are very, very similar, and it actually takes quite a trained ear for you to pick up the slight difference. But a lot of the time a bird will sound very, very agitated, and so it will just make a constant noise, like a psh noise, or I haven't done it any justice with my imitating. But anyway, it will just basically keep going and going and going in one spot, and if you watch it, it will be agitated, it will be bouncing up and down, it will be making a lot of noise and quite a big racket. And that would be an alarm call. Where a normal call, I mean, in the area here, you get to learn the different bird calls. And, I mean, you'll be able to pick out what a rattling cisticulus sounds like, or an arrowmark babbler, or say, Cape glossy starling's normal sound looks like. And then when you see it making a slightly different call, then you'll probably be able to work out that it's an alarm call. And birds are sometimes a bit frustrating because they alarm call at a lot of different things. So you hear all of this noise going on and you want to go and investigate it. And you sit and you watch this bush expecting to see a snake or something like that. And you can sit for hours and not see anything. Sometimes they produce something like a leopard. I've heard, especially francolins. If you see a francolin perching up on a tree and they're alarm calling, making a constant racket, then you know that there's something on the ground that's moving through the area that they're a little bit concerned about. These hippos do look like they're a little bit camera shy. What do we have there? A little terrapin that's sticking its head up. Yeah. A little terrapin, they're the hippos. I think they might just take a deep breath and disappear again. There you go. Alright, so they're obviously camera shy. They don't really want to show their faces too much. So we might continue on down towards the great Timavati River. And whilst we get there, we'll send you across to Steve, who's got a hyena this early on in the afternoon.
Look, Timavati River is a great place to hang out. Welcome back, everybody. Well, I got an update from the people who were the last ones with Thandi this morning. And so we've come back to where the kill was, and we found 2 hyenas. Now, can those of you viewers out there confirm for me this is ribbon? I think. I've only got her ear to work with. I think it's ribbon. And one little notch there in the side. And a weird little thing at the top. It is ribbon. This is the matriarch, and Trishala is desperate to find wherever ribbon might be hanging out with her cubs again. So what we were looking for Thandi, she moved slightly apparently. We haven't found a track exiting this block, and we haven't found the lioness either exiting this block. But so we came in to see if we could figure out what's going on. And hello everybody, welcome again to the afternoon show. My name is Steve, joined by Vanna, and we're very excited to have you. Please send your questions, comments to #WildEarth, or throw them on the YouTube chat stream or on Twitch. Back over to a scavenging hyena over there. She's lying flat in the shade. We drove in towards the kill, a little bit south, where someone said that they'd left Thandi. The lioness was left underneath the kill, and now we were driving in slightly a bit more to see if we could find either of them, and we found hyenas. Now, hyenas are very good for us because they often lead us to where we want to go. And we've already found Thandi's cub this afternoon. She hasn't gone there yet. It's not to say she won't, But the hyena is seeking a bit of shade, so will she, for now anyway. And maybe the next half hour to an hour we might make a turn and see if any tracks exit this block. So everybody, if you have the time and inclination, please feel free to go to the link below. Support us any way you can. You can continue to bring wild and wonderful and wilderness adventures from the wild for you. Hyenas, lions, leopards, pangolins from Tswalu yesterday, Tswalu Kalahari. There's a smorgasbord of animals on show. Leopard cubs. I really want to find this lioness this afternoon. Miss Animantris reckons that maybe Ruben's looking for some alone time. You know, Miss Animantris, it is the case with lions, leopards and hyenas is that as soon as they get to the den, or wherever it is their cubs are, the cubs are overwhelmingly enthusiastic to see mum. You know, it's very similar to if you've got dogs or pets, not cats really, but dogs. When you come home, the dogs are so excited to see you. Anybody got dogs? When you come home, wow, they go crazy, even if you left for 5 minutes. And every time these mama bears go back to their place of kids, where their kids are hanging out, it's overwhelming. And the Unkuhumas with all of those cubs, all 9 of the cubs, it was overwhelming because they would just go after every single lioness they could until they wouldn't try to share it out, would they? No, they wouldn't go 2 or 3 per lioness. No. All 8 would go for one lioness trying to suckle. So indeed, every mom needs a little bit of personal time. Mums out there, can you relate? A little bit of personal time. Moms also need to go play a little bit of golf, if you know what I mean. And we're not far from where the Djuma clan has been denning, just round the corner. Very good. Well, we've got some flat hyenas here in Djuma Private Game Reserve, and all over in the west, in Tswalu Kalahari, they've got some flat cats of their own.
So it looks like we have something up ahead here. What can it be? What? We have some big cats. So going from owls to big cats. Okay, some more. I apologize if I lost comms here, but it's just been a little bit wonky in this area that we are here. And we got another one lying just ahead of us here. We'll go closer shortly. I just don't like driving right up to animals on the initial approach. Doesn't matter how relaxed they are, I always like just keeping a little bit of a distance and just seeing how they react to the vehicle and that. I think that's just a courtesy to animals rather than anything else. So one of our tracking teams located these animals this morning, and they'd actually been on an eland kill. So an eland is a large antelope that we get here, and they'd been on this eland kill far east. So Jean and I were just sort of like pottering around this area on the off chance that they'd actually moved down to where the water is. It's not in frame now, but the waterhole is about 100 yards to our left-hand side. So I'm sure these cats would have actually drunk already. Now they've just been lying down in the shade. instance, hopping around. It's like, I wonder what you taste like. We've actually witnessed lions trying to catch birds before on Tswalu. So Meave has just asked, how far do lions travel in a day? Well, to answer that, it would be, have they eaten? What is the terrain? What is the purpose of their moving? What lions are capable? What distance they're capable of traveling in a day if they had to? That would, comfortably 20, 30 kilometers in a night, easily. There's absolutely no problem with that. What they would normally travel in a night is a lot less. Again, depending on their habitat quality. So if they've got a lot of food availability, and also if there's pressure from prides adjacent to them, then they would be doing a lot less traveling. But on Tswalu, probably looking at an average of about 7-8 kilometers in an evening. Your dispersal animals, so things like young males that leave the pride at about 2 years of age, sometimes a little bit younger, they can cover big distances. Those are like in the region of 20, 30, 40 kilometers in a night easily. But then it's also understandable. If you had pressure, you're a young dispersal animal moving out of an area, yes, you could be bouncing along between prides for a year or two before you're even able to think of taking over a pride for yourself. I love these lucky sightings. I'm a big fan of putting in the hours and the effort to track anything, and whether it's a lion or a mongoose, But occasionally you get lucky and you're just ambling along and okay, there's cats there. It's always fun. But they do not seem particularly keen on doing anything this afternoon. So I think what we'll do is we're going to head over to Taylor and see what she's got on that side for you.
Good morning, not good morning, welcome to the Sunset Safari. That's a great way to start the day, but I suppose the elephants having a mud bath will definitely make up for it. But we're just sitting down at Ndlovu Dam, which is my favorite property to sit because we're on Pridelands. Now, of course, I'm nervous because I can't speak English anymore. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Gert. Let's have another look at the elephants. Stage fright today. Wonderful. So you can see a white canopy in the distance. That is the eco-training camp. So the students have the luxury of literally just walking out a couple of meters and being able to watch the elephants and buffalo and giraffe and all other animals that come down to drink during the day. They almost don't even need to go on a safari. But we're just back with the boys again. There were a couple of breeding herds, so a couple of females that came through at the dam. But they didn't spend much time there. They just came for a drink. They didn't even have a wallow like these boys are. Look at that, just slushing through all the mud now. You can see how they're making mud wallows, in case you ever wondered how they started. It normally takes something as large as an elephant to do an almost handstand, if you will. Go down on your knees and slosh around in a bit of water that's drying up. And they've created these lovely pools on the side that warthogs and buffalo will definitely appreciate. They don't like to go into the deep water. And we've seen the elephants swimming, they don't mind so much. But the smaller mammals that enjoy the mud would definitely like those little pools over there. Look how happy they are. Sticking their faces right into the mud, loosening it up with their tusks, and then grabbing big trunkfuls and throwing it over their bodies. It always amazes me that elephants don't slip as much as they do, because if I had to walk down anywhere near that mud, I'd definitely fall on my bottom many times. You can see the older bull's just showing that other one how big he is and moving him out of the way. T-Hart, yes, I've never had a mud bath before, but I think if I were to pretend to be an elephant, I'd definitely enjoy it. I mean, they come multiple times and cover themselves with all this clay. And we have people constantly telling us in the beauty field that it's good for your skin. I definitely trust an elephant more than I trust a person, so perhaps I should start smearing it on my face and do a test. Now a third one wants to get in on that little wallow that they're creating over there. I don't know how well that's going to go. He's completely dry. Is his trunk wet? Has he even had a drink yet? Yes, he has. That's always a good way to just check. You normally see the wet patches around the feet and then the wet tip of the trunk. And then, of course, it's very easy to tell if they had a mud bath or not because they've got this lovely sort of shimmering shine all over their body. And after you've had a mud bath, perhaps you need to go for a swim. It's also really awesome to see if they do go further into the water, you'll watch how deep it gets. It's quite deceiving, actually. And where they're about to head, it sort of drops down quite a bit. And I think that's from the elephants constantly swimming in the same spot. Now, I haven't seen this dam for a full season, but supposedly it doesn't dry up all the way. Seanak, now mud, of course, helps a number of different animals sort of protection from the sun, so it does act as a sunscreen. However, elephants have got very thick skin, and their skin is quite a dark color already. So it's got a natural protection from the sun, but it will help and keep them nice and cool, so that mud goes in all the little cracks and crevices on the elephant's skin, and then creates a nice cool layer, and then that sort of hardens up. And then, of course, it's very good for any parasites. But the best way to keep cool is to do what that elephant is doing right now and submerge yourself. It's an interesting shot. Imagine you've never seen an elephant in the wild before, and the first thing that you see is one trying to do a handstand underwater. So you can see how deep it is there. And under it goes again. Oh, multitasking. Oh, this is lovely. Every time I see this, I always laugh as to how it takes them ages to put their tail in. They always hold it up. I suppose it's like you and I when we enter a pool and it's a bit cold and you keep your arms up above the water and you stand on your tippy toes at all costs. But of course they've gone right behind the trees, but they should move out into the open. And the other elephant on the right-hand side is not so sure about going into the water just yet. Really taking its time. Ready, Rudy, let's see if this elephant will also go bottoms up. It's just taking its time a little bit. Here we go, finding another deep patch. Doesn't seem to want to go and socialize with everybody else, but maybe the splashing of the other two will coax it in. I'd find that hard to resist. When everybody starts to jump in the pool and start swimming, I automatically want to go and join. Here we go, venturing out now though. Isn't this lovely? It's very soothing to watch things like this. You can spend hours and hours just at camp, sitting behind the safety of a whole bunch of logs, and the elephants don't always come around to that section, and really watching them just do their thing, and they just ignore you. They're not bothered by the people at all. There we go, yes. Go play with your friends. So they're very social animals. Even though we see those big bulls spending a lot of time on their own, these are in no way big dominant bulls just yet. They've got a lot of growing to do. But it's nice to meet at a common sort of point like this, like a watering hole, and to sort of catch up on the daily news. And of course, play in the pool. Although I'd say it's frowned upon, however, to defecate and urinate in the swimming pool. But with elephants and any other wildlife, they just do what they want. It doesn't bother them. Going completely under the water. Oh, this is so fantastic. Interesting question, Kerry. I don't think we're going to have a hippo and elephant encounter right now. There doesn't seem to be any hippos in Ndlovu Dam, just elephants. But if an elephant were to step on a hippo's foot, I think there would be much pandemonium. However, I don't think it would ever get to that case. I don't think that a hippo, firstly, would allow an elephant to come so close. They're very protective of their water sources. And because we are going into dry season, all the water holes are drying up. And I know at Djuma there's been some amazing sightings of a hippo bull that resides in, I think it's the dam right outside Vuyatela camp. And he chases the buffalo away all the time. So the hippo would probably open its mouth up and show its big teeth and say that it's unimpressed with the elephants. But at this moment in time, there's quite a bit of water around. So if there was a hippo here, it might also just move to the opposite side. The elephants seem to favor one side of the dam, and they'll swim here. But it's not uncommon to have sort of collisions between animals during dry season. Sometimes there's been many sightings all over Africa with rhinos and hippo, or rhinos and elephant, or buffalo and rhinos, or buffalo and elephant, you name it. It always kind of happens. And then, of course, if you in places where crocodiles are quite prevalent, they're also basking out on the banks, and they can get in the way too. And they're just there just trying to sun themselves. But there are not too many hippo that come through here. Just every now and then we see them in the dams, and there was one hippo living in this dam for some time, but it has gone on a long walkabout. But at some point it will return, because this dam does keep water all year round, and we've been lucky. We've had a good rainy season this year. It's not like back in 2014-15 where there was a horrific drought and pretty much all water sources sort of completely dried out, which was very sad. And this is very typical boyish behavior. Jumping on one another's backs. So there you go. You can see how thick their skin is, because if they didn't have very thick skin, their tusk would probably pierce straight through it. But on their backs like that, it'll be a couple of centimeters. But they're also not being aggressive. They're being very playful, and I'm sure they know their boundaries on how hard they can push so that they don't hurt one another. I also always love how white their tusks go after they've had a swim. I must say, it's very hard sitting here. I have to practice a lot of self-control, because I very much want to go and join those elephants, but that's frowned upon, of course. We don't interact with wild animals like that. We just sit from a distance and enjoy them. But that would be fun. It's almost like their trunks become a bit of a pool noodle. I don't know if any of you also did that as a kid, where you whack the pool noodle on the surface of the water. They do that at one another quite a bit. Glenn, I wonder what would happen if we were to put a beach ball out there. Again, we're not going to ever do anything like that. I wonder if they would play with it. I mean, we watched little elephants the other day play with a rock. So I've seen them pulling out all sorts of things from the bush. Especially when they're younger, they're very much entertained by lots of different things. So I think if a pool ball floated on by, they'd probably be a bit nervous of it in the beginning, but then who knows, maybe they would play with it. Although I don't think it would last. I think it would pop quite quickly. I'm just looking up to see if there's any more bulls coming down. This is such a nice time of the afternoon. The light is so lovely. It's very much a photographer's paradise, Pridelands. There you go. You can just every now and then hear the clashing of the tusks as they push and shove one another around. It also must feel so good on their bodies. Imagine all that heavy weights, carrying that heavy head and trunk and those tusks around all day long, and then to feel, they must feel very light in the water. It's not too deep that they can't stand. It's kind of the perfect depth. But elephants are very capable swimmers. Right, before Trisha's little creature runs away, let's go over and have a look at a squirrel.
My little creature has run away. Indeed. But there's holes in this big giant leadwood tree that keeps going in and out of. So we're going to keep an eye. But I just wanted to chat to you. We spoke about the leadwood earlier, and I had a question about what is the oldest tree on Djuma. And none of these trees have been carbon dated, but leadwood would definitely be a great candidate. I would say out of all trees, it'd probably be the oldest group of trees on Djuma. And I was mistaken. They can live for hundreds of years after they have died. Some say hundreds, some say 150, some say 90. But the oldest living, the oldest has been carbon dated to about 1,000 years. That's the oldest specimen ever that's been carbon dated. 100 years is in addition to that once they've already died. And they're really, really important trees because they, even in their death, have created many, many homes for animals. And that's why this squirrel was such a good example of that. Going in and out of the holes in the leadwood. That was its cue to come out and perform for us, but obviously it's on strike today. So it provides holes for little squirrels, birds, as well as reptiles, things like that. And it's a protected tree, so we don't drive over leadwoods, we don't damage leadwoods. Des, when you say it's a zombie tree, it does look like it. In fact, when it has bachelors sitting on it, it can be quite a zombie-looking tree indeed. So what you're seeing now, that bark that you're seeing is actually the inner bark of the tree that's all wavy like this. The outer bark kind of looks a little like a pixelated screen or crocodile-type skin. The fishes are all rectangular on the outer bark, but because this tree is so old, that outer bark has fallen away, and now you're looking at the inner bark of the tree. My animal is not working for me today. You know, squirrel, BK and I have nuts on drive today. Maybe the word nut will get it out. Tasty nuts. We have some macadamia. Some almond. Not interested? What about biltong? No? Clearly nothing's going to entice this guy out. So there you go. One of the strongest, densest trees out here. Density of about 1,200 kgs per meter cubed. That is a lot. That's why it stands so strong and so tall for so long. Anyway, I hoped that the squirrel would make an appearance, but apparently not. So let me send you over to andBeyond's Ngala, see what they're getting up to, and I am actually going to Steve.
Welcome back, everyone, and we've managed to find a nice big elephant bull for you. Now, I believe that at Djuma you've been talking about leadwood trees. It's not a tree that we get in this area, but it's also not a tree that you would ever really see elephants push over. Or at least in my experience when I worked in the Sabi Sands, we never saw elephants pushing over leadwood trees, and exactly for the reasons that were explained, is that they're very strong trees. And so it'd be quite difficult for an elephant to push over the leadwood tree. But also it's a tree that they probably wouldn't want to eat. Because it's such a hard tree, it would probably do quite a bit of damage to the teeth of an elephant. And while we're talking about eating, that's exactly what this elephant bull has been doing for the last little while. Although he's walking on the road now, he has been munching away at every tree that he can get his long trunk on. And he's even pushed over a couple of trees. So although that is seen as destructive, it's not destructive at all. It's all just part of the way a elephant feeds. He likes to push over trees to get to the roots of the trees, get to the leaves, and therefore also allowing other little animals that can't reach those leaves to be able to feed. You'll see that he's not flapping his ears too often. Just one or two flaps there just to cool down a little bit. If we saw him a little bit early on in the day, you would have expected there to be far more flapping going on. But it's nice and cool, so he doesn't really need to use those ears to cool down. You'll see he is slightly opening them, and the wind is blowing from us to him. So he won't need to flap his ears to cool down. He can just open his ears slightly, and then the wind that is coming from behind will blow over those veins and blood vessels that are close to the surface of the skin of the ear. Alright, let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Marcel, if you just want to have a quick zoom in on the road here, you'll notice that there looks like there's a drag mark. And some of you might think, oh, is that a drag mark from a leopard dragging a kill? It is in fact a drag mark from this elephant bull. While he's walking along, he's busy dragging his trunk. It is often a sign that an elephant bull might be in must. When they're in must, they tend to drag their trunk more so than an elephant who isn't in must. But I had a look. I didn't see any signs that this bull was in must. He was dribbling from his temporal glands, which is one of the signs. But the main sign that we look for is wet back legs. Now, when they're in must, they can't control their bladders, and therefore they constantly dribble urine. I don't see any dribble marks in the road, and when he was walking away, I didn't see any signs of him dribbling on his legs. So it could be that maybe he's just going into must. You could see secreting from his temporal glands, or maybe he's already been in must and has come out and still has just a slightly heightened testosterone level. But he hasn't shown any sort of aggression towards us, which is what you would typically note in an elephant bull in must. So I think it's safe to say that he isn't in must at the moment. Now that secretion that you can see just behind his eyes from the preorbital gland could be because of many reasons. Miss what? Elephants have big ears for exactly what I was explaining earlier, because they're unable to cool themselves down via sweating. They use their ears to cool down. Now there's various ways they'll do this. If this bull had to go down to the waterhole, which I actually think he's going to at the moment, if we carry on this road, there is a waterhole down there. If he comes across some water, he will spray water behind his ear. If there's some mud, he'll spray some mud behind the ear. But generally you'll see him flapping his ears. Now by flapping the ears, he's passing wind over those ears. And compared to the rest of his body, the skin around his ear is actually very thin. And the blood vessels and other veins are quite close to the surface. So by cooling those blood vessels down, he cools his own blood down, and therefore he will drop his internal temperature slightly. So it's a very effective cooling system, much like the radiator in a vehicle, in fact. Seems that he's also using those big ears to listen to me at the moment. You could see how he had stopped feeding, turned his body slightwards, was watching me as I talk. Often when you see elephants just standing still like that, it is because they're listening. Now, could be listening to me, could be listening to other elephants. Their ability to hear elephants from a long distance away is incredible. Not necessarily used, or his ears aren't necessarily used to hear those elephants. They think that elephants can pick up the vibrations in the ground while they're communicating to each other for many, many kilometers. He's got a nice big branch in his mouth there. You see nice and green leaves. So we are starting to go into winter, so we'll start to note a change in eating habits of all the elephants on Phinda. In summer, when it's raining, the grass is lush and green, but as you can see from us to him, all the grass is yellow. So it has lost most of its nutrients by now, and so elephants tend to then move over to eating leaves, bark, roots, and the occasional grass along the way. And so he's obviously found a very scrumptious tree to feed on. All right, well, while we keep watching this elephant, see if he pushes over any more trees. Unfortunately, we haven't seen him do anything in the last 5 minutes while we've been viewing him. Let's head over to Tswalu to see what they have for you.
So these young males, you can see, oh sorry, the meerkats in the background there. This is the coolest thing. So I'm just going to put this in perspective for you. We are sitting here, you cannot imagine how lucky we are to see this. Okay, so the meerkats that Jandra was just on, and the lions in the foreground, we've had a particular film crew, I can't mention names, but years ago, they spent about 5 weeks at the same spot trying to get meerkats, those little critters there, and lions in the same frame. And Chandra and I rock up, and there's meerkats and lions in the same frame. Chandra's like, yeah, what's so difficult about this? That's because he's a master cameraman. So this group of meerkats is not one of our habituated groups at all. So they're probably fairly relaxed around a vehicle. But you wouldn't be able to approach them on foot. They would just go straight down their burrows. And you'll see they're not even alarm calling. They're giving no indication of being worried about the presence of lions. You know, meerkats just don't feature on the diet of lions. Although, that being said, lions will go for pretty much anything that they're able to get hold of. And we've seen them actually catching water birds and so on. A little bird called the red-knobbed coot, where lions had actually caught one of those. That was a ridiculously unusual sighting, but we've had that. You saw earlier that one youngster tried to catch those birds when you were with us last. I actually missed that completely. Chandra pointed it out to me, made it known. So I don't think meerkats will feature, certainly not on their normal prey range, but you never know. I mean, if they, especially young lions, these sub-adults, they will try to take anything, and that's also part of the learning process. So it's great going from the one set of cats through to the other set of cats. Slight size difference there. They're doing a lot of grooming at the moment. Our field ranger said they actually caught the eland last night. I mentioned that earlier. So now it's this whole process of trying to get the blood off themselves. And again, they will be doing mutual, or what we call allo grooming as well. So you'll get them grooming each other. And that really just helps clean up all those hard to get places. A stunning afternoon out here. It's very, very mild. The wind has died down nicely.
Shelley wants to know if the lions would dig them out of the burrow like a waterhole.
Shelley, I just want to apologize here for my comms. So Chandra is translating for me now. Shelley has just asked, would lions try and dig them out of a burrow system? It's very, very, very unlikely. I mean, the effort and energy that they would expend trying to dig a meerkat out of a burrow is, it's not even worth it. I mean, that's not going to happen. And then again, I'm always hesitant to say it will never happen, because then I'll be proven wrong very, very shortly. But it's very unlikely to happen. And again, that's kind of just highlights just how valuable these burrow systems are. I mean, I would be surprised if a lion didn't go for a meerkat if they had no kind of shelter. So if these sub-adult lions came walking along and they cornered a meerkat or a mongoose or something in a a very, very small bush, and it couldn't get underground, my money would be on the lions to try to catch those things. But like that, now they see those meerkats, the meerkats know the lions are here. Neither side is going to make any move on the other one. It's not going to happen. It's a nice sized group of meerkats here. I haven't been able to count how many there are, but there's probably at least 8 in that group. And also there's a distance factor as well. I mean, if those meerkats aren't alarmed, those lions are about, from where we're sitting, they're still another 20 yards from us, and from them to the meerkats is about another 110 yards. 110, 120 yards. So, I mean, yeah, there's that factor there as well, where the meerkats couldn't be bothered with these lions. I think we're gonna start moving on from this area and see what else we can locate. But in the meantime, head over to Taylor at Prrivate and see what she's got on that side.
We have not moved from Ndlovu Dam. The water. Hello? Better? Okay, sorry everybody. It seems as though I just had some trouble with my audio there, but we're back now. Although I'm sure you prefer to listen to the sound of the elephants as they splash about. So I'm going to sit quietly for about 25 seconds. I think it's been about 25 seconds now, probably not. But my thing at the moment is that there's one elephant on the left-hand side of the dam that come into the water, and I don't know why he doesn't want to come swimming. Although now he's actually going in. But you can see he's trying. He's already had a fight with one of the younger elephants as they pushed each other around. No, he's just having a drink. He's avoiding those boys at all costs. So lovely. It's also really impressive to see how those big leadwood trees compete with elephants. They're enormous. He's trying to go around them. I wonder where he'll go. I do know that there's a bushwalk team that's out at the moment, and they're lurking in the bushes somewhere. So after this, we'll probably move on off and see if we can't find those lions that we saw this morning, just so that they can also come and have a moment with the elephants at the dam, which is quite special. Oh, plopping down right next to his friend. So that elephant that's now rolling around in the water next to the dry one, trying to have a fight, a play with that other bull. Let's see if he goes in and tries a second time. Looks like he wants to go over there. Ears all flared out. Smacking his trunk on the water. He's probably saying, come on, it's a whole lot of fun. He's sort of saying, no, I've just done my hair. No ways I'm washing it again. I don't know, that's what I normally say. But this is so lovely. Jane, you're right. These elephants have absolutely no idea what social distancing is. Perhaps they think that they are swimming in a dam full of hand sanitizer. Who knows? I feel like these elephants have been exposed to so many sort of germs and bacteria and viruses and all those types of things, especially after swimming in a pool of water with their own feces. I mean, for elephants, luckily enough, they just eat vegetation, so there's probably nothing too dangerous in there. I stick my hands in elephant dung all the time, and I'm constantly burning it to keep the flies at bay, and also to actually enjoy the smell, especially at this time of the year when they start to eat the bark, stuff like that. I know with like a lot of incense and stuff, they normally ground down bits and pieces of various nice smelling plants and trees. And it always smells good in winter. Oh, that is just absolutely lovely. I was hoping that maybe some buffalo or some other animals like Impala, there's normally a big herd of Impala come down to have a drink, or the warthogs. They must have come in a little bit earlier. And we even in the middle of the night hear the elephants swimming around. So just because the sun sets, that doesn't stop them. Occasionally they come and splash around too. Now there's also three crested francolins. 4, 5. A family of crested francolins coming down between the elephants for a drink. Oh, that's lovely. Did you see them? There we go. They're just walking past the tree, trying to find a way in and to have a drink of water. Oh, careful, elephant, because if you splash around, you're going to make a huge tidal wave go towards those birds. And I don't think that francolins particularly enjoy water too much. Actually, I've never even seen them having a water bath before. You always see them dust bathing in the late afternoon light. Maybe that's what they'll go and do after they've had a drink. The elephants have loosened up the nice soil that's sort of just surrounding the dam. It would make a perfect opportunity for them. But the reason why there's so many francolins over there is just because they've had chicks and they're all growing, well, most of them have grown up now. Yeah, look at the way that the light is catching their skin. It almost makes the elephants look slightly golden. Oh, that was a bit rough. You see that bull closest to us has broken a tusk. I'm sure you noticed it earlier. There's just so many things to talk about. This is exactly how they can do it. I know we've touched on it. But bulls and young bulls like this constantly sparring with one another and playing around in the water, it's very easy for a tusk to chip off. The elephant pushing the francolins away, having to finish their drink a little bit earlier. Also some doves flying across the screen every now and then. It's a lovely scene though. I hope that you're all taking some lovely screenshots. I must also thank you for those screenshots you sent of the lions this morning. I'll definitely be using them. Daniel, this is as close to the beach as these elephants are going to get, unless they decide to walk to Mozambique. And then perhaps they'll find a way to the lovely warm waters of the East Coast. Unfortunately, not a white sand beach. Got that nice dark soil. So those elephants aren't really trying to mate with one another, in case that's what you're wondering. It's very typical for all male species of animals to constantly try and mount one another to assert their dominance over each other. And now, chasing the doves. Poor ringneck doves, get out of the way. The elephant is coming for you. Oh, this should be good. Right, in case you wondered if elephants can't climb, they're fairly flexible and can lift their legs up nice and high. But first, you've got to have a little scratch. It's, I suppose, a place that must get quite itchy, and I'm sure there's lots of ticks and things that hang around there. Who are you charging for? Oh, please come and have a dust bath. If the birds aren't going to have one, it'd be gorgeous for you to throw some sand over yourself. I do apologize. You're going to hear a noise. It is just the guys filling up the water tanks. So the nice thing about the camp, the eco-training camp at Pridelands, is that you really live off the grid and you have an opportunity to earth yourself if you've never lived in the wilderness. So we have to go and fetch water a couple of times a day. So that's just the pump that you can hear. My apologies. It shouldn't be too long before it is done. I don't think they realize that we're sitting at the dam. Elephant, are you coming over to us to cause trouble? I think that's what's happening. Yeah, he's coming all the way over here. Let's see what this boy gets up to. Are you going to be brave enough to come up and say hello? He's a young elephant bull, so again, he's at that stage where he just wants to see who he can chase around and who he can be dominant over, which normally means that you can get some great encounters. And it's important to, as a safari guide, and especially as somebody learning to become a safari guide, that's why this camp is so great, because it's filled with elephants, is to learn different behaviors. And it's very intimidating when an elephant approaches your car. Obviously, the smaller they are, it's less intimidating. Hey, boy, could you watch him as he twists his trunk every now and then? Hey, hello. This whole time he's basically said to us, I'm going to try and scare you, but I'm going to try and sneak up over to you. And that's just an old reservoir that used to be filled with water when this was a farm. But this is no longer in use. So soon that will all be knocked away and removed. Yes, Megan, he does have his sassy pants on, but you can see he's not as brave as what he thinks he is. He's come around the car, but now he's put logs between himself and us. And he's going to march on off into the sunset. He might try and sneak around and do a little surprised attack. But this is so typical of young elephant bull behavior. And it is important to stand your ground a little bit, just so that they learn that they can't do naughty things. Oh, are you going to have a scratch? No, you're going to walk past the rubbing post. There's a lovely marula tree that's caked in mud. You can't see it, though, because the sun is behind it. Off he goes. There's some fellas still in the pool, not wanting to get out yet. Lovely, but it seems as though elephant are now the trend. Steve has joined the party. Let's go and see what his pachyderms are up to.
We do indeed, thanks Taylor. Well, sometimes you get wonderful images of elephants at the water, and sometimes you get a bottom sticking out of the bush. That's what happens. But I'm just going to keep quiet for a moment and let you listen to the feeding of this herd all around us. So some white-crested helmet trucks that just flew past. What's coming through here on the right? Baby coming behind Mama. Just there on the right. Oh, it's the littlest thing. Pink Ellie, look at the little Ellie, yes, so cute. It's trying to figure out how to use that trunk. Now everybody is completely normal. If this female comes closer to us, relaxed, she's relaxed, which means that we can be very relaxed. There's space between her and the calf. If there's any negative behavior, that calf would be invisible, be hidden. Look at the size difference. Mama, where are you going? Oh, Lisa, I'm sure you love. There's another one coming here. Look at this little naughty fellow. On the right there, Vanna. There's another little naughty fellow. Oh. He's hanging out with the big boys today. Look, there's two big boys with him. This is so special. You see what started out as a very average elephant sighting. It's turned out to be something quite special. There comes Mama at the back, keeping a close eye on proceedings. She's got no tusks. It does happen sometimes, genetically. Some elephants are born without tusks, and sometimes they just break off. Very important tool in their arsenal for. Oh, look at that little one. They use their tusks for gouging into the bark, to rip the bark. Great ambient audio, I believe, everybody. You're liking the size comparison. It's a very good sign for you if you are a self-drive tourist visiting a Kruger or visiting a big reserve and you come across elephants feeding, doing this, babies all over the place. You can just switch off and just relax. Elephants are not sneaky. They're not going to be doing one thing and then suddenly out of nowhere come and squash you. Like this mama here. She's eating, loving life. The tail wagging at the back there. Eyes half closed. They just sound relaxed. The sounds of feeding is a relaxed state, natural behavior. And as I said, very importantly, if they weren't relaxed, you would not see the babies. They would be hidden. And obviously for the most obvious, elephants trumpeting and charging is a pretty obvious sign of negative behavior, but subtle signs. If you find a herd standing close together, not moving, babies invisible, just switch off. Don't do anything more and watch from whatever distance you happen to be at. If they then relax again and start wagging their ears or flapping their ears and tail moving and babies emerge, then if you feel the need to, you can go a little bit closer, but never go too close. If they come closer to you, they're doing that on their own accord. Very important to be educated about how to deal with elephants from a vehicle. They are naughty sometimes. I've been in the Kruger National Park on my way to work. There's been a massive elephant bull walking down the road towards me, and 15, 20 cars reversing. I just pull over to the side. They all reverse back. The bull just keeps walking, walks up to me, looks at me. I talks to him, walks past me, keeps chasing those cars down the road. It's always quite funny. go. Here's the big mama. There, she's just given us a little bit of a warning there. Nothing too aggressive, just that sideways posture as she suddenly realizes that we are sort of between her and the rest, and now she's moved off to the rest of them. Now they're going to respond to her. Look how they all come together and start moving off as one. Nothing negative, just cohesion. Elephants are very, very well coordinated and able to communicate with what we call infrasound. It's a very low frequency. It's about 5 hertz. Humans hear at about 20 or 22 or something, so we can't hear a lot of the communication that's going on with elephants. Try that next time you're with them. You'll see they all go. And then suddenly everybody starts moving again. It's really quite magical. Okay, I'm just going to move back. And let's see if we can get you another view. We thought they were going to go to the Waterhole that we've got around the corner, and they completely bamboozled us and didn't. And Taylor had them at the water, so we figured, yeah, well, we can't beat that, but nothing trumps a baby elephant. And there it is, busy suckling now. Just going to come right over here and stop for you there. Okay. There we go. This herd is moving into the thickets, into the drainage line, and for those of you who have been watching the show for some time will recall when Chella, the one lioness of the Umkuhuma Pride, had her cubs, and that one day she came back and couldn't find them and was calling. Do you remember that? That was right here, right through that little game path, going there into the river. The Mlawati drainage. Oh, look, it's got an itchy foot. 2 of them the same size. And here comes the bigger cousin to push them around. Adolescent elephants have got nothing to do after they've had milk, so that there's lots of play, lots of learning. You'll often find them right there at mum. Oopsie, he jumped. They've got to figure out elephant society. They've got to figure out what's edible and what's not edible. And they will be right next to mum when she picks a leaf or a piece of grass or a flower or a forb. And they will smell it go, and it will become ingrained in their brain about that's edible. You won't find elephants ever eating anything they haven't learned to eat. For example, prickly pear is a cactus in the Eastern Cape. Prickly pear and cactuses like that are eaten big time. But in places up here in a reserve that I worked at once, they had some prickly pear that went wild, and elephants ignored it. They didn't touch it because the cactus looks very much like a euphorbia. Okay, I'm not actually going to go any more in there. You can just watch from here. And a euphorbia, if you don't know, if you've never heard of the word euphorbia before, euphorbias are generally, I think for the most part, poisonous. They contain a milky latex. They look very much like a cactus. They are called candelabras as well. And they are poisonous because they are full of juice and liquid. And so if they weren't poisonous, well, the elephants would eat them. Okay, well, here's another one. Just here, smash in the grass. We might get some last images of that. And then I think we're going to be losing it. Very good. Well, we're going to move on from elephants, do one more loop, see if we can find Tundi popping out somewhere. Meantime, I'm over to my friend Trish, who I think is just around the corner.
I am bumbling about. In fact, I'm bumbling about towards where Steve had the 2 hyenas. And I want to go have a look, and hopefully Ribbon will lead us to wherever she's denning at the moment. I have a surprise. It is a snakeskin. As you can see, it's totally intact and I didn't break it at all. It is very fragile. I actually wanted to chat to you about it when we were talking about the squirrel who didn't make an appearance. So I thought, now I'll save it for later. It looks really, really gorgeous in the sunlight, doesn't it? I I especially like the tail. Oops, that's my cat. I wondered if that squirrel would alarm at it being in the vehicle at the time, but it didn't. I mean, it didn't even really pay attention to me enticing it with the nuts I had. But nonetheless, I get to show it to you. Now, I wanted to talk to you about it in conjunction with the squirrel because it's interesting to note that squirrels and other animals that often interact with snakes Sorry, I'm just listening. Oh, it's a woodpecker. I can hear it picking. The small animals that usually interact with snakes, including a mongoose, as well as squirrels, they obviously tend to have a problem with snakes and venom. As you would know, snakes do have that, and that can be a real problem. It's such a specialized material or liquid, and it can really affect animals in horrible ways, but also necessary and quite an expensive trait for a snake to have. But these small animals, like mongoose, as well as honey badgers, to recover from snake bites with the ease that we can only dream of. And that's because we have special receptors on all of our cells that receive many, many, many different things. And they also receive toxins that are in snake venom. And because of this, that's why we get affected. If we didn't have these receptors, we would get affected. So it appears that animals that are not affected by snake venom actually have a few receptors that are different. So a receptor works by being a lock and key kind of thing. So there's a receptor, here comes a molecule and fits exactly on. And that's how it then kind of locks in, and then whatever is meant to happen because of the venom happens. Generally death of some sort, or injury at best. So these smaller animals have receptors in a number of places that do bind to, or the venom does bind to them, but there are some that are not the right shape. And that's how they manage to get over it pretty quickly, because not all the receptors that would usually have taken in the venom, not all those receptors are actually activated. So if they have 6 receptors for the different molecules in the venom, maybe only 4 of them are actually receiving the molecule, while the others are off shape and they don't receive it, so the venom doesn't work as well. I think that's super cool. Thank you, Snakeskin, for prompting that conversation. So I am gonna go check out Ribbon and Comet. Steve says that's nearby Tandy's Kill. See what they're getting up to, since I've been looking for them so much. And then I'm gonna send you over to andBeyond's Phinda with some lions.
So we've come back in the area where we found these lions this morning interacting with the leopard, and they haven't moved too far at all. They've only moved about 15 meters or so, and they look very comfortable at the moment, and most likely lying on this rock to get the last bit of heat that this rock has to offer. And by the looks of things, it's also quite comfortable. Couldn't imagine sleeping on a rock that's so jagged like this one is, and yet so comfortable. But if you have a look, film the one on the right with his paw up on the rock. Looks like he's got himself nicely wedged there.
I think the rock's his teddy bear. In the crevice. Marcel says he thinks that lion thinks the rock's his teddy bear. So we've got 4 of the youngsters. So the 3 close together, then one of the adult females to the left. You can see she's got a little bit of a cut on her leg. Just get my binoculars on, have a closer look at that cut to see if it's maybe from this morning when they were interacting with the leopard. bit tough to tell. Does look like a very clean cut, so most likely from a claw. Does look like she's been licking it. You would have expected if it was a wound from today, she would have been licking her wounds, so the saying goes. And you would be able to see that the hair around there has been ruffled up a bit. So maybe that's a bit of an older wound from a scuffle around another kill. And then off to the right, we've got one of the younger females lying just a little bit further away from the pride. Maybe no space on the rock for her. And then you can't see it at the moment, but behind this tree to our right is the oldest of the two adult lionesses. They seem very comfortable. Last night they ate a warthog. This morning they fed on the impala that leopard had killed. And so they're looking very content with life. If I look at all their bellies, it does seem like their bellies are pretty full. That's not to say they won't hunt again. A pride of 6 lions like this feeding on a warthog and then an impala the next day sharing it amongst each other isn't necessarily enough to go by. So even though they're lying here, if there is another opportunity to hunt, I'm sure that they will take it. And into the evening, I would be surprised if they're still here. After the eventful morning that they had today and feeding on the impala this morning, they're probably quite thirsty. And we're not too far from one of the waterholes, actually the waterhole that elephant was walking towards. And so maybe from here they're going to head off into that direction. Now the area is very thick between here and there, and a few little riverines which would hold some Ngala. So if they did have another opportunity to hunt tonight while walking towards that water, I'm sure they will grab it. Linda Polly, I'm not 100% sure exactly what happened to the leopard. By the looks of things, when I saw him dart off, he did look alright. So while he was down on his back, I had a look with my binoculars. I didn't see any injuries on him. I'm sure he would have seen quite a bit of blood had these lions managed to get hold of him. And the way that he ran off, he seemed to be fine. So unfortunately, we haven't seen him since, but I don't suspect that these lions followed him. He ran off in the total opposite direction, and they were more interested in going back to the impala that he probably killed last night and that they had stolen from him. So I think all has ended well with that male, which is fantastic news. It was a very intense morning today. Watching these lions fighting with that leopard. And you'll notice that there is quite a few young lions here. So 4 young lions and only 2 adults. And most likely why that leopard managed to defend himself. It was a bigger male. Had it been a female leopard, I think that she would have been in a bit of trouble. But with only 2 adult lionesses, I think that leopard would have easily been able to have defended himself. Alright, well, let's head over to Tswalu. Apparently they've got a lion busy watching some impala.
So these lions are still very, very much a relaxing state. An impala did walk past a big ram and started alarm calling, and they kind of like rolled over, looked at it with some vague display of interest. And you see, especially this youngster closest to us in the front, and there's the impala coming up somewhere over. It's gone. Oh no, it's gone. It's been eaten by someone else. So, yeah, that impala I kind of like ambled across. Oh, there it's going. It's going way out the back now. It's gone behind those bushes at the back there. But he came across into the open clearing here, and just started alarm calling at this loud like that. And the lions just kind of like rolled over, looked at it. But they certainly weren't going to make the effort to try go for it over this open area. particularly in light of the fact that they've actually eaten something last night, so their bellies are nice and full. We're hoping that they're going to move down to the water just now and get something to drink. It's with like 100 yards from them, so I think they'll do that just now. So what we're seeing here, you frequently hear it gets stated our lions sleep for 18 hours a day. And we chatted about this very, very briefly. We touched on it the other day, where they're not asleep, fast asleep for 18 hours. They'll be resting for 18 hours, and of that 18 hours, there's, I don't know how many, there's a good solid number of hours that they will be fast asleep. But a lot of it is also just spent resting, so it's just they're not moving, they're lying there like these ones are doing, just watching. There's another one far over to the left, Chandra, I don't know if you can see that one, and that one seems quite alert, so I don't know if there's something approaching the waterhole. There we go. That little kitty there. That one's watching something down to the left. We obscured down there. But so it's, I don't know what that is there. But again, they're so full, it's unlikely that they're going to go hunt for anything now. Heather, yeah, we call them very simply the North Pride and the South Pride. And that's just because of the kind of the areas that they inhabit on the reserve. Those are the two pride. And then we've got a whole lot of these like nomadic animals, between, and they move all over the place. They can cover very, very big distances. And interestingly, the area that we're watching, this is the South Pride. This area that we're watching them in now is actually the contact zone between two of these prides. And on a number of occasions, they've had big fights at this very spot where we're sitting over here. So that's one other thing. They'll always be alert when they're around you, though, because they're on the fringe of their area now and on the border of the other pride's territory. So there'll be a bit of heightened awareness over there. But within these areas, I mean, you can get other males rocking up, sub-adult males that are dispersing, and they could, pretty much appear anywhere. And they've obviously got to be very, very careful about where they're going and where other male lions are. And if they're very lucky, the young males will join up, or perhaps even leave their pride of birth in a coalition already, with brothers. And that'll obviously enable them to be able to be better placed to take over a pride in future. Ooh, Ian, that's a very interesting question, that. Do lions get stains on their skin from kills? I wouldn't think so. What you definitely do see is you get, let's call it temporary staining, let's say like hemp, as an example, where it would come off. Marks the assist. Yeah, so you can get a bit of temporary staining, but not. It's not going to be anything that lasts. So Jadra is just wondering about my experience with hemp tattoos. I have none. It's just an observation. Obviously, at this time of day, you're likely to get things coming down to the water, but with lions in this state now, nice full bellies, and that, they're not going to actively hunt. But again, we've touched on this very briefly, that if an opportunity presents itself, that that they think is worth a bash and it's close enough, they'll go for it. But in terms of actively going out and hunting, they're not going to do it. You saw earlier how that one youngster actually tried to catch that bird at that mineral lick that I missed completely because I was fast asleep. So opportunity like that, yeah, they'll try to take it, but they're not going to go out and walk around trying to catch something. Penelope, they certainly are dashing looking animals, eh? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Eh? Sleek, fit, just muscular, they're just magnificent animals in every sense. They have their moments, they have their clown-like moments. That tree, the one that's sitting up, the big tree, yeah, that one with that forked branch immediately to the right of it, that branch is broken. They love playing in that tree. The youngsters, okay, they probably won't do it now just because their bellies are so full. But if they get you, and they'll often play around and they climb up and down that tree and they jump on each other. And so for all their like regal splendor, the lions really do have a pretty playful side about them. For those of you wondering, he's still with us. But in the meantime, we're going to head over to Phinda, and I think they've also got lions.
I'm sure you've all been sitting back home wondering what has happened with the lions that Jared's with, and I can tell you nothing has changed. They're all in the exact same position. I think the only movement has been a couple of tail flicks and flick of the ears, although the one youngster to the right has had its head up the whole time, and that could also be potentially, that does look like the smaller of the 4 cubs. And so maybe the other 5 lions have bullied this particular one off the warthog last night and the Impala this morning. And so it is still a little bit hungry and waiting and hoping that it spots something walking off in the distance. So you'll notice when you look at her, at this age, you can already tell males and females just by looking at their head. So the younger males, who we can't really see at the moment, would have that mohawk already starting to grow and some hair below the jawline and onto the neck, whereas you don't see any of that with her. So we know that that is definitely a female. And unfortunately for her, her brothers will not let her feed while they're feeding, particularly a smaller carcass like the warthog and the Impala that they fed on this morning. Linda Pally are most certainly a rock pillow, not a pillow I would like to ever sleep on. I prefer my nice cushiony pillow. I'm just going to reverse it a little. I just see the adult mother's just lifted her head up. Maybe Linda, as I said that, she goes back down. I thought maybe she's going to get up and come give your rock pillow, Linda, a try. But I don't think so. She just has her legs sprayed open, a bit like a spatchcock chicken, and actually facing her exposed belly in the direction of the wind. So a little bit different to these other lions who are lying on the rock to probably get a little bit of the warmth. She's maybe a little bit hot, and so decided to open up her legs, expose her belly to the wind that is blowing through the gully that is formed by the roads in this thicket. And I'd imagine with her being the oldest of the lions here, she was probably the one that was the most involved in chasing that leopard and giving a bit of a hard time this morning. And because of that, she would have exerted quite a lot of energy this morning, and then feeding on the carcass would have used lots of energy, and digesting would have used lots of energy. And so internally she's probably just quite hot, and so now trying to use the elements to cool down. But she lifted her head and yawned, and with cats that is often a sign that they're going to get moving. When we see grooming and yawning, which I can see with one of the lionesses up ahead, so I'm just going to reposition one more time and ask myself to film the young female on the right. She is in fact grooming and yawning, and now she's lying down. They want to do everything that they're not supposed to do. Typical lions do. Yeah, you say that they're about to do something and they say, oh, you think you know me. But it's pretty much imitating her mother now, lying with her belly facing the same direction, giving Jared a hard time. I think she's going to sit up again. Come on, listen to me. Nope. So there's just been a bit of a breeze that's come through, a stronger breeze, and so that might cause her to lift her nose into the air. You'll often find when there's a bit of a gust of wind that comes through, lions will lift their nose in the air just to see what they can smell. Isn't that just adorable? She also looks comfortable. But unfortunately, this pride doesn't look like they're going to get active anytime soon. Like I said earlier, we do look for grooming and yawning as a signal of moving. Oh, there she's just stood up. Let's see what she's going to go do. She might go plonk herself down next to her siblings. Nope. Such beautiful colors this time of the evening. It's one of my favorite times of the day, just after the sun sets and you get all the different shades of blues and yellows and oranges in the sky. For no reason at all, she just decided to go find another spot. Maybe there were some flies irritating her where she was lying, and so just going to go find a different area and hoping to get away from those flies. See, she is flicking her tail vigorously from side to side, so she's a little bit bothered, and is exactly what the four on the rock are doing as well. They've got far more patience than what I have. I would never be able to sit there and have flies landing on me all the time. I'd end up sprinting off. As the sun starts to set, you'll hear a lot of the insects starting to make noises. We can hear some cicadas off in the distance, busy calling, and various other types of crickets and beetles calling. There's some francolins calling off in the distance, giving their last evening alarm or territorial sounds. Now, Sassy Cassie, they do most certainly. You'll see as time goes by, the teeth of the lions do become more and more yellow and can even rot. And you will sometimes even find that lions' teeth will break off. So yes, Sassy, they do most certainly get tooth decay. And it is actually one of the ways that we're able to age lions. And so what we will do is, with the younger lions that we have here, when they yawn, you'll see very, very white teeth. Then you've got the slightly older lioness whose teeth is probably starting to go yellow now, but still quite sharp. And then the lioness behind us, who's almost 10 years old now, or I think she is 10. Her teeth now already start to go quite yellow, the tips will be quite blunt already. But for most of their life, their teeth are in pretty good condition, or have to be able to tear at carcasses and feed. You need to have strong, healthy teeth. So teeth decay would not be ideal for an older lioness. Alright, well, while we sit here and watch these lions do what lions love to do, let's head over to Trish to see what her hyena is up to.
Well, she's doing much the same as your lions. She's just lying down, having a rest. This is all I ever see her doing recently. It's ribbon, everyone. And she is near where Tandi's kill was. She's moved just a little bit, but she's still nearby. But I think by the time show ends and nighttime approaches in darkness, I don't think she's going to be out of here and will be able to lead us to the den. But this makes me wonder, because this is quite close to the Philemon's cutline den. Makes me wonder if they've moved to another den that maybe we haven't seen before. Just heard something that's in that block. But also there were a number of dens in that block that were occasionally used. I know there was one close to Treehouse that they used like twice and moved around a lot. Or she could very well be using the den she's always used, and those cubs must have been absolutely freaking out when the elephants were around it. Could have just been our timing as well. Redstone Pride, I'll ask for you. Can you please lead us to the cubs, Ribbon? She seems uninterested in your request. But I'm sure that we will find them. It would be good on her part if she has moved them. It'd be a prudent thing to do, especially if there's a lioness in the area. I'm sure you all did the same thing I did, and you just, when she picked up her head and her ears perked up, you all listened with her. Yeah, the cubs have been in that den for a while. Hi Gabriel, you're 11 years old, and you'd like to know if Ribbon could move her den onto a different property. Yep, that could happen. Nearby possibilities would include Little Gari, maybe even Torchwood. They've been right on that edge before. So yep, that could happen. But that's a long walk for her to have gone there and careful. Plus we're still seeing loads of tracks all around. They could also just be using different access points. Remember, she wouldn't want to go and den where she could possibly clash with other clans. And she's the matriarch here, so she wants to keep that very comfy position. I feel like there's something else in the block here with me, apart from Ribbon and BK. Hearing the occasional rustle. But Steve is also moving around the block and having a look. He wants to find Thandi or that lioness. Christo, you'd like to know if she's perhaps protecting the cubs, as in moving the den to protect them, or I'm not sure in what other way, but she is protecting them by moving them, because as they sit in the den for a long time, and it's been 3 months now, the den will start to smell like hyena cub, and that will attract predators, and she wouldn't want that, so she's protecting them by moving. If there were lions in the area for a long period, she'll also do that. One incident with a lion, she may not. I mean, if she's sufficiently scared, she could. But that wouldn't be a huge prompt. At least not immediately. That time with Corky when she was attacked by the dark-maned evoker, they still stayed in that den for a little while before they moved. Ribbon is now looking at, or in the direction of Steve. You know Steve, Ribbon. Oh, maybe that's not Steve. Gosh, you'd like to know, how would Ribbon actually move these cubs? Would they be walked or carried? They'd be walked. Especially if it's a short distance. They'd be walked. Ribbon listening to the sound of female voices. So curious. I've heard that sigh so many times, and it almost always follows an intense stare, curiosity. Where's that sound coming from? And then as she puts her head down. I wonder if she managed to get a meal today, or part of it. To be frank, I'm glad that she couldn't have flown here, so she must have walked here, so that means that she's good. She's doing well. The sun is really starting to escape now. Franklin's are starting to scream over where they want to sleep tonight. And I'm going to sit tight here. I'm going to send you over to andBeyond's Ngala and see what they're getting up to for the rest of the evening.
Good evening and welcome back to andBeyond Ngala. We have been driving around for the last sort of hour and a half since you last saw us around the Waterhole, and we thought it would be a good idea to come back into the area where we saw both that lioness track and that male leopard track this morning, just to see if we can put if we can find at least one of them. We went to go and check into the river where we last knew that lioness was denning her cubs. We went and then we came back, and unfortunately no sign of her there. So I'm wondering if maybe she decided to move her cubs in it must have been either yesterday or maybe even the day before that. No, I think she was seen yesterday by Nikki. So maybe she moved them. And we've just seen, I can hear Impalas, what I think might just be the rutting courtyard is just rutting. I thought it maybe, yep, there you go. I don't know if you saw them chasing each other across the road over there. One of my favorite things is the tail that lifts up, especially at this time of evening. You can see it catch the light quite nicely. It's amazing. I mean, this rutting season seems to have gone on for quite a while. It must have been close to two months now. But within this herd, this is literally all males, and so it seems like everything is starting to calm down. Just going to drive past them before I put my spotlight on. And just see as we're driving through how dense the vegetation is around us. I'll put my lights on again. And so we're right on the southern bank of the Timbavati River, driving straight towards the sun, so in a westerly direction. And within this vegetation, because it is so dense, there are lots and lots of hiding places for both that lioness to keep her cubs, and for leopards to move around stealthily. And so that's why, especially at this time of evening, when these nocturnal animals might start to get up and active, it's a very good idea to be driving down a road like this. I'm waiting for the day that we see one of the rarer animals, or the nocturnal animals, like a honey badger or an aardvark. Amy, you've asked a question what I was pretty much just talking about, is the rarest animals that we see in the park. And I think for the most part, the rarest animals, or the mammals at least, tend to be the nocturnal ones, because they're often active when we're all asleep. And so, I mean, pangolin tends to be the rarest animal, at least in the Kruger National Park. And I know you've had some unbelievable sightings of it in Tswalu Kalahari in the last couple of days, which is phenomenal, especially to see it in the daytime. I mean, you hardly see it at all in the Kruger National Park, at least. But I've been lucky enough to see pangolin 4 times in my 2 years here at Ngala. Pretty good track record for pangolins. The animal I've seen the fewest is a small little cat called a caracal, which I guess looks like a lynx, but it's very red in color, and it's got these long black tufts and these pointy tips to their ears. So I've only ever seen that once on Ngala. So according to my records, caracal, at least for me, is the rarest one that I can think of at the moment. But I'm sure a lot more people have seen more caracals than they have pangolins, so I'll still stick with pangolins as the rarest animal to see. Oh, it's a little nightjar. I wonder if would we be able to get that, Owen? A little nocturnal bird in the road. Okay, we'll flip over to RR just so we can see it. It's now on the right hand side there. There you go. That's pretty cool. And this is a bird called a nightjar, which has just flown away, unfortunately. So if I had to guess, oh no, it's back on. It's back on. That's cool. See, what it's doing now is a technique called hawking. So it's sitting on one spot and it's basically waiting for insects to pass by it, and then it will jump up and catch them. It is so dark I cannot see any colors, and nightjars are notoriously bad to, or hard at least, to identify. The most common one we get here is the fiery neck nightjar. I think that might be the end of our nightjar sighting. Not confident enough to idea it 100%. So we'll leave that one as an unknown. But sometimes for those nightjars you literally have to Craig, you saying that you bet a penguin is quite rare in Ngala. I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it was in 2012 when we got the floods of the Timbavati River. There was actually a colony of penguins that migrated from Mozambique all the way up the Timbavati, and they settled down in the tented camp. So they actually weren't too rare in 2012, but now I suppose they are a little bit more rare. About 2 months ago, actually, speaking of penguins, there was a random king penguin that has never ever been recorded on southern African coastline, appeared in Cape Town, and that was pretty much the first time that it was ever seen. It's quite strange that it just appeared from out of the blue. But yeah, we definitely don't get penguins here at Ngala, although in the early mornings when we're out on game drive it feels like we could see penguins, how cold it's getting. Owen says he's been hearing what he thinks is polar bears behind his tent. So whilst we keep on searching this area, Craig, for your penguin, we'll send you over to a place who's actually got lots of penguins in their property, and that's Tswalu Kalahari.
And here we are again. So the pride moved off, the females in Serval moved off, and lo and behold they went straight to the remains of a kill. So this must be, I'm assuming this is the kill that the tracking teams located earlier today. I think they said it was an eland, so I'm not sure male, female, but they got here. We were following quite a distance behind them, so we couldn't actually see when they arrived here. But by the growling and that kind of stuff, there was a bit of interaction going on here. So when we came in, one of the big males is lying here. I don't know if there's any others in the area at the moment, but I can just see the one. Chandra, I don't know if you can see any others, eh? I can just see the, I don't think there's much left on that carcass. By the looks of it. So Eva's asked a good question again, is why is there a white stripe underneath their eyes? The traditionally accepted, and you can see when you say it's white, it's like that pale stripe. There's one walking towards us. You can see it very nicely on that youngster, that young male. And the thinking there is that it actually enhances the light, enhances the brightness of the picture, of the light entering the eye when lions are hunting at night. And you'll see a number of nocturnal animals do have that. They've got very, very light, or in some cases even white patches around their eyes. So that makes kind of sense. But then you get these outliers that make no sense whatsoever, and they also have that. We've got a lovely little animal here called a rock elephant shrew. A rock elephant shrew. They're also known now, actually the more correct term is a sengi. S-E-N-G-I. Sengi. So there's this little rock sengi. They've got beautiful white rings around their eyes, and they are frequently active in daylight. Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's another male at the kill there. Well done. Yeah, so those little sengies are active in daylight, and they got this bright white ring around their eyes. So what's that for? And then that makes one think and say, well, perhaps the light absorbing or enhancing the image that they're seeing at night in terms of a light thing may not be the entire thing. It could also be a visual recognition of other animals, and sometimes that the coloration on the face is more distinct in adults than in youngsters. If you look at the markings on a baby, a newborn, a gemsbok or roan antelope, for instance, those markings on the face are very, very indistinct. As they grow older, they become more and more defined. Until when they're adult, they're those super crystal clear black and white markings. So it may be a visual recognition of an adult animal. If you look at birds of prey, many of your raptors, your large, and especially your large birds of prey, in adults, the eye is bright yellow. And not all birds of prey, I just want to put that out there, not all, but in a lot of them, the eye is bright yellow in the adults. And when they're youngsters, the eye is brown. Now, these things have incredibly acute eyesight, and that could just be a recognition of, from a distance, of adults versus juveniles or sub-adults. Just, this is awesome. Look at that. If that doesn't say I'm your dad, then nothing does. Yeah, I mean, that you can just, that's dad for sure. There's only one that'll tolerate something like that kind of behavior. This is fantastic. We're just sitting nice and still. There's nothing to be worried about. We'll sacrifice genre if we really have to. Look at the size of them. And this behavior, he's now 0.5 meter from us, literally. This behavior, okay, this one in the front is maybe 2 meters. The one to my right is about 0.5 meter. So just that interest, this behavior is very, very, very typical of young lions, of sub-adults. Inquisitive. They want to investigate everything. And also, it's getting cooler in the day. Temperatures dropped a lot. Now they're kind of like becoming a little bit more playful. Yeah, you muppets. Yes, those eyes, they just like look right through you. So there you can see what Eva was asking about with a very pale coloration underneath the eyes. That's not my stomach, if you can hear it. That's a lion. Ruta has just suggested I should try pet them. You know what? I've got an extremely good sense of self-preservation, and that will not feature on my repertoire at any stage. Although this lion's really kind of inching in here. Just that he's cuter. And I wonder if he thinks if I taste like chicken. I hope not. No one said the word chicken, lions. No one said the word chicken. We said eland. Oh my word. You see, I should get Mel Gibson in the frame there. Try to get a photo here. Curious. Now he's crawling right up to the side of the vehicle there. So we're going to just try have a look to give you some idea. You can see the front of the Land Rover there on the left-hand side. So he's really close to the wheel, and he just gets up now. But But you say, but you see, in these situations, there's absolutely no need to worry about them, panic about them, or anything. You know, these animals are just curious. It's really cool. Do you want to have a look? Okay. I'm going to try to give you, actually, you probably, okay, Genre is just battling for the angle there. So we're going to, you can't see. Okay, we're just trying to get a different angle there, but it's not working, so we're going to scrap it. But how exciting was that? So we're gonna spend some time here and carry on enjoying this. But in the meantime, head back to the Lowveld. I think it's Steve who's got something really cool for you as well.
Hello everybody, look what we found. I can't believe it. There's a branch in the way. Of course there's a branch in the way. We've got a serval with a kitten. I'm not moving because it's not very relaxed. That is my first serval in the Sabi. And it had a little kitten, everybody. Whoo! Now, I found tracks many times before of serval. I've told people there's serval. We've seen them on camera traps. You just saw one. Do you see those ears? I am very, very excited about that. Still over there, I think. I need to switch that light off for a second until we turn on. Yeah. Just coming towards the gate in a last-ditch effort to find some content for you this afternoon, and we found a serval with a youngster. And they're gone. Just like that. You can just turn that IR light off for now. It'll stay. Vanna. Yeah, there we go. Rosalind, how amazing. Now we're going to try again, but unfortunately it gets a bit tough over here, but tricky. We saw the eyes. Servals are regarded as diurnal. Oh well, they slunk off. How awesome was that? That was awesome. I'll claim that. I'll say that that's the highlight of my week. Although I did see Tundi's cub as well today, so very hard to pick a highlight. Whew! I couldn't believe it. We saw a civet a little while ago. And then I shone my light and I saw two sets of eyes. I went, hang on. We used to see them in the Mara all the time. They're a cat, but they get out-competed by larger cats, such as leopard, lion, and the like. They feed almost primarily on rodents and small birds. So they don't have the same sort of ecological feeding niche as leopards do, but okay, so I've shown tracks before, we've shown them to you now, we got one on camera. I wonder if we've seen a serval before in Sabi Sands on camera. Everybody, please let me know if we have or haven't. Woo! It's been a day of days. Tundi this morning, a couple of hyenas this afternoon, leopard cub. Now, I know Taylor McCurdy loves her servals. Now, she's at Prrivate enjoying the sunset.
That is so epic, Steve. I'm so envious that you got to see a serval, especially with a little kitten. That's incredible. Oh, I know we don't have anything as glamorous as that, but I thought the view from up on this high point at Prrivate was quite pretty, although I feel like I've set myself up to fail there, but It still is gorgeous, and the light has just turned a beautiful sort of orange, and you can see just the mountains, the Drakensberg Mountains in the distance. But now we know where to come when we have sunset competitions. This is just one of the very many, because we also have a really nice view of the Drakensberg Mountains throughout the reserve. I haven't got to show you them just yet, but we're not going to rush everything. We've come up into this area to actually look for a male leopard. We saw it yesterday. Was it yesterday? It was. You know, time flies when you're having fun. And there are also female leopard tracks with cub tracks. So I just wanted to see if I could pick up any more fresh signs of them in and around this area. But we haven't had any luck just yet. But who knows? This is the time that all the creatures start to get active. There are lots of rocky outcrops that all the rocks will be retaining a lot of heat. So I suspect that I should use my spotlight and shine on the rocks, and maybe we will find a spotted cats of sorts. It would be nice to add a leopard on our side after just seeing Serval with kittens. Very cool. But I think we're going to carry on from that gorgeous view. Look at that. Wow. Pretty big skyline. And let's see. We've seen so many bush babies already tonight. I'm hoping that we'll also be able to find you not a serval, a bush baby of some sort. So we'll keep on searching. But off you go back to Djuma, where Tswalu is sitting with Ribbon.
I am sitting at Ribbon, and she's led us exactly to the den. Everyone at the sound of cubs. Did you see that little head? Oh, after a run around to figure out where they've been, what they've been doing. She's obviously just been hanging around Tanti's kill since yesterday. Shame those poor things must have been losing their minds with the elephants all over the mound. Milk truck is back and everybody is happy. Elephants have such a strong sense of smell. I'm surprised that they came along and ate so close. I mean, the foot of the one elephant was literally in that den hole, right at the mouth of it. But that also must mean that perhaps the stench of cub is not too strong, so that's why Ribbon says, okay, well, I'm still going to use this den. Oh, I feel satisfied. It feels so nice. It's as if I'm seeing them at home, finally. I can still hear elephants around, actually. I think she's just glad to be home with the cubs, and the cubs are glad for Mum to be home. Oh, it was quite a day. I'm glad that we're here now. If you enjoy watching the stories unfold and coming on board with us on your very own live and interactive safari, please go over to our support page. There should be some details coming up on your screen. Go ahead and help us if you can. I feel satisfied. I hope that you all do too. It was a covert operation following her from that kill. Hyenas don't like to be followed. so we had to coast most of the way with our lights off and act like we're not looking at her. Every time she turned around, we'd just look away, look up at the sky. I'm not following you. Can you hear the faint breaking of branches? Elephants are still all around. Isn't it just you're all talking about how peaceful it is? It really is. It's a wonderful night out here. Well, I'm glad that we managed to wrap this up today. Ruben is in the cubs are fine, and we are all happy. Alright, I'm going to send you over to Tswalu Kalahari. They have some flat lions.
So the youngsters have moved further away from the vehicle, or at least 3 of them. There's still 2 that are lying just behind the vehicle on the right-hand side of here, but very relaxed. One's actually just flopped down. Others, bit of grooming going on there. 2 males just haven't got a care in the world, lying upside down. You know, the one at the back. This one here is just, yeah. I think they're not going to be going far tonight or whatsoever. The Waterhole's very, very close by us, so they're probably going to end up there at some point in the evening. But look how intense that grooming is. Constantly, just, they'll go, within a day or 2, you're not even going to know that they had a speck of blood on them. And the places that are hard to get, the other lions will groom it off for them anyway. Quite a tough life in nature if you think about it. You know, I think we just get used to popping down. You go to the grocery store, you buy what you need, you go home, kind of thing. Nothing out here is like that. It's competition from start to finish, from the day you are born. In fact, if you're an egg, from the day you're laid until the flipping day you get noshed by something. It's just it's hard work the whole time. You know, if you're a plant, you searching for water, you're searching for nutrients, photosynthesizing, you're trying to stop being eaten. It's a Caroline, you're quite correct. Sorry, I just lost the comms there for a little bit. Quite the 48 hours. We have been, Genre and myself, we haven't done anything exceptional. It's everything that we've shown you has been due to nature. You know, special. I mean, every single thing out there, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a lion or this grass around the lions or the bushes around them, you know, the clouds in the distance, the mountains, everything has got something unique about it, and it's just absolutely incredible to be able to spend time and try and understand these systems and try and learn about them. It'll be interesting to see where they ended up tomorrow morning. If it's not us, one of our tracking teams will be out, and I love that, to come back in the morning and see how far they've actually travelled from where you leave them in the evening, especially when they've had a kill, because then it could be, you know, are they 100 meters away fast asleep under a tree at the water, or are they miles away? But anyway, it's been, as always, fantastic having you with us on these drives. And, we, over the coming days and weeks, we're really going to continue to try to get it, and join us tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.